All right. So today on Scaling with Heart, I'm talking with Kimani Franks, founder and owner of NovaLux Consulting. Through expert training and support, they help businesses of all sizes embrace digital technologies, increase productivity, reduce costs, and drive growth. Kimani and NovaLux Consulting is on a mission to be a trusted partner for their clients, providing customized solutions and exceptional services every step of the way. I know Kimani from when we worked together at the UPS store. Kimani, thanks for joining me and helping me kick off the new podcast.
It is indeed a pleasure, Nikki. And just like you mentioned, we worked really well together and continue to work well together in our initiative to grow our businesses and our brand. So thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, this is going to be fun.
Yes, it
One
is.
of,
I already like the
yeah.
flow.
One of the things that I always found admirable about working with you when we worked together at the UPS store, you worked at corporate and I worked in the field supporting the franchisees. And like with any business, there are needs for requirements and structure and processes and rules, right? Rules and regulations in everything we do.
Right.
And most of the time, the rules and regulations made sense, but sometimes out in the real world, the rules really were just more of we're not, they were more of a blocker, a hindrance. And you were always able, when I had a blocker that was really getting in the way of progress in getting a new franchisee in the system and moving them forward, with being able to get them rolling and onboarded, you were always able and open to working with me on how to work within the system, but still see the people involved and with keeping within the rules and regulations, helping onboard the people and taking things from a people approach. And I really admired that. And I wonder, that makes me wonder how you align your leadership and as you're building your new business with culture and the goals of businesses. How do you keep everything, how do you stay in line with what's required, but keep in focus with the culture and people?
Well, that's a good question, Nikki. And I think what people tend to forget is that everything, laws, rules, principles, everything that we do today was created by someone. So we live in a world where people create the things that are around us. So why ignore the people? That's just the end result, right? I'm a big believer in people provide perspective. So if you're able to give someone or listen to someone's perspective, it gives you a new perspective because maybe something you never thought about. Maybe it's something that you were so stuck in, and we call tunnel vision, stuck in one routine, one way of doing something. And someone says something, in your case, you used to say things a lot that I'll go, you know what? Why aren't we trying that? There's nothing wrong with asking the question. That's how you grow. That's how you advance in any business or company. So I just feel like people are the piece that a lot of professionals and leaders forget about. They start looking at bottom lines and they start looking at initiatives like we talked about, and they look at, you know, basically self-preservation things where how can I keep my job? How can I keep my position? How can I move up? But none of those things happen unless you have people around you that are smarter than you, that have an ability to think outside the box, and that you can work collaboratively with. That was a tongue twister. So that both of you can grow, right? And that's the
Right.
big lie. That's the big lie. The big lie is if I help you get better, you're going to take my spot. But that's a lie. And it's a big one. If I help you get better, I'm training my replacement so that I can do more. People see your leadership when they see someone else growing under your tutelage, and that shows your value to be moved to a better position. It all
Right.
works together, but you got to be vulnerable enough to do that, and you got to care.
Right. And that's tricky. And I like that, and surrounding yourself with smart people and seeing other people's perspectives. It's not about being the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
I think the smartest person in the room is the person who can know that they need to surround themselves with other people with other perspectives, and not just the people who think the way that they think and approach things the way that they think and do things, but all different. And opposites attract, but opposites also make us think stronger. And it's great. Sometimes we need that person who can be like, you are right, Kimani, you are brilliant. And sometimes you need that ego boost to, get your confidence up. But at the same time, you also need somebody, and you need an environment that's safe enough to say, now, hold on a second. I don't know if this is really going to work, or that might not work, or this might work, or, and you always had an ability to you were always approachable in that way. And I just really like that. Can you share a little bit about your experience in corporate America and how, if corporate America change it, how much of a role did that have in your desire to leave and build what you're building right now with NovaLux?
I played a huge, huge factor in why I decided to leave corporate America. It's interesting that term corporate America has become universally used by almost any professional that you ever talk to, because it's almost its own little country. You know, you live there, you know the rules, you know what you should not do, you know that you got to step on people to get where you need to go, you know that you got to protect yourself, you know that you got to watch your back, all these things that come with the culture. And I just realized I didn't want to be part of that culture any longer. It generates toxicity. It generates unnecessary stress, and it wasn't keeping me happy in what I really love to do, which is to train, to help people grow. My biggest thing, just so you know, Nikki, and I think you knew this, I truly, truly cared about the franchisees and the area franchisees. I truly cared about their experience. I wasn't going to leadership or senior leadership and saying, we need to do this so our numbers can grow. I knew that if you are happy, our numbers would grow by us just because of that, right? Because you're
Right.
happy. People work better, people collaborate better, people will tolerate me better when they're happy. When they're not
Right.
happy, they don't do that. So I decided, I said, you know what? Enough's enough. I've been in corporate America almost 15 plus years. And I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and say I'll never, ever, ever, you don't know what the world's gonna bring you. But if I can help it, I'm gonna build this business that I have so I can build my community of leadership. I have people working with me right now that love working with me, not because they work for me. They work with me. We have the same goals, same initiatives, and that's something that I believe in more than this country of corporate America where the rules have been established. I want an opportunity to establish my rules.
I
And it
love
looks like
that.
this. And yeah, and it looks like the sun is shining right in my face. So I'm gonna turn that just a tad. All right, there we go.
You want to be able
You
to
know,
see?
yeah, lighting is great. You gotta have the lighting right. As my daughter says, Dad, if the light's not right, don't take the picture. So
Lighting
so
will make
um,
big difference on things, Kimani.
yeah,
Your daughter's
yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah, it looked like for a second I was coming out of the heavens. I was like, I don't like this look. What's going on in this camera right now? Let me move it. I am not
I tell
heavenly
my
by any
husband not
stretch
to
of
look. I like brighter lights. I look younger in brighter lights, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah, you look young, period. You don't gotta worry about it.
Well, you
Yeah,
got to see me out in the barn. I don't look so young in the barn when I'm doing the horse
yeah,
stalls and chores and stuff, but
yeah. Oh, I would love to see your pictures of your barn one day. Just a little
okay.
offshoot, sorry. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I will send you them. All of my critters and all my critters. I got lots of
Yeah.
critters. Not,
Okay.
some of the critters I don't really welcome. I don't open my gates and say, "Come on in, critters." Like the
Yeah.
other night, my husband and I walked in the barn and there was a baby skunk. And so we backed right back out of the barn and gave the skunk time to leave.
You might want to do that.
And I grabbed the dog too to make sure the dog didn't go help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
That's funny.
yeah, the dog will be in my bed. We'll be smelling skunk for the next week.
And I mean, when that skunk smell gets on you, it is not good. It is not
It is
good.
not good. It is
No.
not. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, it is not good.
So, what was the one spark? You talked about how, leaving corporate America played a huge role in starting NovaLux, but what was the one spark, if there was one, that gave you the clarity that you needed to know that starting NovaLux was what you wanted to do and give you the energy and the mission and the drive to do that?
Um, there's a lot of sparks. I can't really even say there was one, but I would say when the things really shifted for me was when I felt like I couldn't go throughout a day without having to do something work related. When leadership is asking that much of you, where my phone better be answered even if it's 2 in the morning. You're not that important to me. My family is more important to me. I'm going to answer their phone call before I answer yours. Please understand that. And when
Right.
someone can't get that, they have been brought up in a culture where you have no identity when you work with people and you're just a cog in the wheel and you better do what I say. Oh no, those days are gone. Those days are gone. So when I saw that that was starting to be the expectation, and I started asking myself, well, then what can I do if I'm gonna I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So what can I do? And NovaLux popped in my head because one thing that I've always been passionate about, especially with the franchisees, is they were always kind of thrown out there like sheep among wolves. They were told to train their own people. They were told to do this. They were told to do that without given the tools to do it. So you're asking someone to do something that they've never been shown how to do. They've purchased this business, and we'll just be clear, purchased this business for the logistical aspects of it. They didn't expect to start having to do print. They didn't expect to start having to do all these other things. And you're asking them now to make that as part of their new culture. They had no way of doing that. And then, of course, with joint employer rules and laws and regulations, we couldn't even help them to some extent. Me and you have had several conversations about that. I can only go so far. So then I said, there's a gap. Who helps the small to medium sized business? These big companies, they only deal with enterprise contracts. So what happens to the people that really need it? And that's where NovaLux came from, is trying to provide a gap, fill the gap, I should say, of where small to medium sized folks who can't seem to get that higher level of training for their people, they have access to it. And so far, things have been going well.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, I know that I've frequently had franchisees that they just didn't know where to begin on how to train
Yeah.
somebody. And so they just didn't train them. They just kind of threw them at the customer and said, figure it out. And they kind of, would walk them through it kind of as they went. And that was one of
And
the gaps we tried to fill at our level was, on the field, in the area. We tried to fill that gap locally and help teach our franchisees a little bit more about how to do it. But we weren't trainers. And so it was even difficult for us to train them. So yeah, I get what you're saying about there being a gap and
yeah,
somebody needing to fill that gap.
and I think too, in the defense of the franchisor and corporate office, it was very hard to get something done because even though it's theoretically a great idea, not everybody saw the idea functionally um, on equal playing with. You know, you can have a great idea, but someone will abuse it, someone will use it,
Mhm.
and you had to deal with that, right? And I think you know what I'm saying, right? So
I know what
you'll
you're
give
talking
them,
about.
yeah, you'll give them something, and you go, here, this is for you, and then someone will find a loophole in it, and a back door, and then it makes you have to pull it back, and you go,
Yeah.
we're trying to help, but you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. Like we're trying to help, and then you do something like this, and now I got legal on my back saying, "Why? How did this happen?" Well, we were trying to help, right?
Yeah.
So there was several ideas, Nikki. Oh my goodness, there were so many things I wanted to share with you all when I was in that position that would have fixed everything, but I couldn't
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
because if I would have
Ideas
done it,
are
so
somebody would have messed it up. Ideas are
yep,
awesome. But it is, you're right, it's in how people execute it and how people use it and abuse it. And we
yeah,
definitely both saw all
yeah,
of that. Uh, and
yes, all the time.
it was a constant, will you stop doing that? It's gonna go away if you keep doing that.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I mean, it even, some of them even came a point where I was the proponent of, can we just make this go away already?
yeah.
So
There were so
I
many
know what you're
times that
talking about.
yeah,
So
insane,
when,
insane.
yeah, it was. So when you're working with your customers, your clients,
Mhm.
and training is obviously a huge element in building and scaling a business, because if you're
Yep,
not, like you said a minute ago, if you are not training and building those relationships on the ground and building that certainty, then the profits are never going to roll uphill and the happiness is not, and there's going to be too much turnover. And training is such a huge important part in any business's strategy and culture. So how do you help your customers scale their operations with training without losing their soul?
yeah, that's a great question. And it's a difficult question to answer because people have different value points when it comes to training. Some people are looking to retain their employees. Some people are looking to upskill their employees. Some people looking for both. Some people have been sued. So now they're just looking for a band-aid to put on an issue that's going on. And because they didn't train them before they were let go, now they're dealing with a lawsuit. So it just depends on the mindset of the person that you're talking to. So we do what we call needs analysis. We ask a lot of questions to try to identify what their sense of direction is. And ultimately, what we find out, and it's sad, but training is more of something you have to do versus something companies want to do. It's a big difference. And I met a client where they want to train their people, and you should see the admiration and appreciation those employees have now. We just finished a training for a big manufacturing company. We trained about 75 of their employees. And out of the 75 of their employees, which started training in late July, about six of them had already been promoted. They felt so encouraged to come to training. And because leadership was in the training, they saw the talent these individuals had. They've been able to not only get promoted, but now these people are even happier being there. It's gotten to the point where I have my own little key card. It's kind of cool. I get to walk in the building, and even though I don't work there, I work there, right? So, so I can walk through the building, and I'm getting hellos and highs, and thank you for the training. And it feels good when people are able to take something and learn. So, to answer your
Yeah.
question, when you're a leader and you can walk through an office or a factory floor or a retail space and your people smile when you come through the door, I promise you, you're making more money. You're making more money. It's a byproduct of happiness.
Right.
And especially if you're incentivizing them and profit sharing, you're definitely making more money. So it's just helping people to see that caring for individuals authentically, not because you have to, you're going to see an increase in your bottom line without a doubt. And
Yeah.
I've seen it 100 times.
Yeah. I like what you say about authentically caring about people.
Yeah,
You know, it's you know, and we talk a little bit about having clarity, and you and I talked offline about having clarity in our own lives and the things that we've done to get that clarity. And if you don't have clarity in who you are and what you're doing and why you're showing up
yeah,
from the beginning, then you're never going to show up authentically. And you have to know, you have to know who you are as a leader to be able to show up authentically. Otherwise, I think you were just kind of going along, and and you're asking, how are you doing, but you don't really care how they're doing. You're just asking because that's the polite thing to do. And you ask, how are you doing, but you're just in your head, you're saying, please don't tell me, please don't tell me.
yeah,
um
yeah,
but like you're saying, when you walk in a room and people are excited to see you, it's because you've made an impact by being your authentic self. And
yeah.
I think that that is so important in leadership.
And I'll speak to this. I hope, and you can loop this out if you want to. I'm going to mention a name. It's a very popular name, so if you want to take this out, you can. But that's one thing I admired about Carol Tomei with UPS.
Mhm.
Carol Tomei took over the role of CEO for UPS, and the biggest thing I liked about her the most, she was a busy woman, busy, and had a whole company, international company to manage. But if she saw you one on one, she gave you one on one time.
That's awesome.
If she sees you one on one, she gives you one on one time with everything she has going on. Now, ask me if she remembers who I am. Probably not.
But in that moment,
But
you felt like,
in that moment, she authentically cared about who I was.
yeah,
That's all it takes. This is not rocket science. This is not an equation that's hard to find the answer to. This is simply just taking a moment to remove yourself from a situation and give someone your undivided attention.
right, right. No screens, no phone
Oh,
calls, no nothing, just right there. And it
yep,
doesn't even have to be a long engagement of time with that connection. I visited many years ago, I visited a children's hospital, and
yeah,
the chief medical officer of the hospital would just walk the hospital and walk the floors and just take a minute and check in on parents, or check in on the staff. And he might not know every single person's name in the hospital, but he took, like you're talking, saying Carol Tomei did with UPS. He did that in his hospital, and he took a minute and he would connect with those people in their interaction. And if he was walking through the lobby and a parent came in with their child, well, he would take a minute and
yeah,
engage with that child and make that connection. And so he had such he was so well respected within the hospital that even when he was nowhere around, and I didn't meet him while I was there, but every single person I talked to at the hospital, they all had the same view of this
yeah,
chief medical officer. And it was that he cared about every single person in there, from the janitorial team to the doctors and the surgeons and the patients and the parents. And he cared about every single person, no matter what their reason was for being in the hospital.
yeah,
And, that's so important, to let people feel that they're seen.
yeah.
And it's
And
not always
Nikki,
easy, because we got to get out of our own heads to do it. And that's not easy.
yeah, and one of my mentors told me one time, um, never allow the puppy to lick you in the face. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, explain. It's
Yeah.
really hard for leaders to, if you want to call it level, to come down to a level of someone who doesn't sit in their same seat or have the
Mhm.
same role and responsibility. So his lesson he was trying to teach me is you have to keep your reputation and respect of your role. But if you find yourself finding too many things in common with them, then they start to take liberties that they maybe shouldn't take because they feel a little bit more comfortable. So going back to the puppy licks you in the face, if you go down to a puppy and you put your face in front of theirs, they're gonna lick you. It's not, they don't mean any harm, just they feel you're at their level now.
Right.
So it was always a balance of like, how do I give myself to someone and become vulnerable, but still keep the level of respect of the role? Because they have to be able to respect you at the end of the day. When you say, hey, something needs to be done, they need to be able to go, okay, this is now leadership, Kimani. We got to get something done. This is not, hey, we played bingo with Kimani the other day and we had a little fun. I'm gonna bring up what he said in bingo. People don't know how to divide the two.
Right.
So that's why I appreciate leaders, how they can take moments to give someone their undivided attention, but to get to know them is a whole nother ball game, because getting to know them means they're gonna know things about them that are very personal, and you're hoping that this person, you're entrusting them with this information, they're gonna use it correctly. And I think
Mhm.
leaders, because of that fear, they just don't do it at all.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think you're right. My last boss, who has since, I don't know if you know this, well, we might just go to a dark place here for a second, but it'll be brief. My last boss, after she sold her business, 6 months after she sold the business, she passed away. But she was in my life, not just for work for 25 plus years, but she was a very close family friend. And, everybody that's always thought that she and I had this super close mother-daughter relationship and that I was always in the know on everything. And, you talk about, the puppy and the licking of the face and keeping, that level of your role. And she was always very engaged. And when I had needed her attention, I had her attention, but there was also always a boundary there, right? So there was definitely work her, and then there was personal her. And the two did not the two did not cross. And when it was at work, we were working. We were not playing and having a good time. If I would see her at a family gathering, you know, we were at the family gathering and we were very cordial and we had the family fun stuff. Um, but I get what you're saying. There's a balancing act to be played of, you know, being being friendly and relatable, but also maintaining that, we work together and there's an authoritarian role here,
Yeah,
whether it's authority because it has been given to you by the title, or whether it is authority because the role dictates it, or whatever it is.
yeah,
There's a leadership thing here. So there's friends and then there's leaders, and it's really hard when the two start to cross.
yeah,
And you do have to open yourself up as a leader a little bit to become friendly without, I think the way that I found it to work with our franchisees was the franchisees could call me and dump whatever they wanted on me. And some of them
yeah,
dumped a lot. Some of it was personal, some of it was business, but this was a safe place and they would dump a lot. I did not dump back.
yeah,
So I became their safe landing space, but I had to maintain that distance a little bit,
yeah,
um, so that when the big rules came down, not really, it wasn't really from on high, But when
Yeah.
when the
Yeah.
rules and regulations, when
Yeah.
the rules and regulations of the franchise agreement had to be enforced, I still had to have, I had to have the authority to be able to enforce that
Yeah.
and not damage and not blow everything up in the process. And that's a tricky, that's a tricky thing. I like the analogy of not letting the puppy lick your face, though. That's clever. I've
Yeah.
not heard that before.
Yeah, one of them, he was he has passed as well. So I'm sorry for your loss, Nikki. Sometimes we really don't value the people in our lives until they're gone, and then we
Mhm.
realize how much they brought to our lives, and whether it's in small interactions or big interactions, I feel like everyone plays a role in the growth pattern of a human being, right?
Yeah.
And when that presence is no longer there, you always lose just a little piece of yourself when those
Mhm.
things happen. So I'm sorry for your loss there. But
Me
the
too.
mentor that I had who taught me that, um, he was a CEO of a Fortune 50 company, huge personality. But man, those intimate moments, it was just me and him. I could tell you maybe throughout the 15 years I knew him, we probably only spent time together maybe 6 hours through phone
Yeah.
calls. Here's over a 15-year period. But those 6 hours meant more to me than time I would spend with the people that I worked with. Those 6 hours, that 15-minute call when I had a really bad day, and he would stop, and I would hear him in the middle of a conference or a meeting go, I need to step out for a second. Give me a moment, and step out. And now I'm his for 15 minutes. Those things matter to people.
Yeah.
And you'll run through a wall for
Yeah.
them. I tell leaders all the time, and even some of the stakeholders I talk to, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to look a little frustrated because it is frustrating. I'll see someone look me in my eye and say, I just don't have time to do all the fluffy stuff. And I'm like, well, first of all, hold on. Pause for a moment. Okay. Um, why does it, or just by you saying fluffy stuff tells me that you already demean and discredit the benefits of just getting to know the people that work with you. They work for you
Mhm.
then. You work for me, just like my computer works for me, just like my mouse works for me. And I think
Right.
I froze. Did I freeze for a second?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Okay. So when I hear people say that, inside, real deep inside, I'm like, ugh, I hate when people, oh, please don't say that. And when you say that in a room full of people that report to you, what are you telling them?
Yeah.
What message are you sending? So
Not a
that's
good
why
one.
when we talk to my clients, I always tell them I use um, work with instead of you work for. I use how about we discuss a solution. I use terms like instead of I'm your boss, I have a role of responsibility where I have to make this decision. Well, see, now I'm showing you I'm a human just like you, but I do have some other responsibilities that you don't have.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure we all win, right? And so,
Yeah.
going back to the situation, your the person that you got to know, one thing that's hard to find, Nikki, are people like you who can who understand the difference. I understand when we're in
Mhm.
work mode, and I understand we're in personal mode, and I don't mix the two, right?
Right. Right. Too often people are like, oh yeah, we're real close friends. I can get whatever I want out of them
Yeah,
and abuse it for work or, and I think that that's more, I think that personal is abused more for work than work is abused for personal. But, um, yeah. And, and it's funny when the job ended, I had been there for more than 25 years. I had relationships with some of these people that were in that network. I had 25-year relationships with these folks. I mean, that's not quite as long as my marriage. I actually had one guy when we announced that the area had sold and that I was going to be leaving the team. He says, what? It's like I'm going through a second divorce. You're my second longest running
Yeah,
relationship ever, he said
yeah,
to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he was right. We had been together for so long. But as long as we had been together, working and had that relationship, and as friendly as we were at work, we never hung out outside of
yeah,
work. And we just we just didn't. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't even become Facebook friends with these people until after my job ended. Because I was trying, I guess I was mirroring my boss and just
yeah,
keeping that professional distance. I didn't want them
yeah,
too up in my business. In fact, by the end of 25 years, during which time I had raised two children, there were people who were still like, "You have kids?"
yeah, yeah.
Maybe I did too good of a job
Yeah.
separating it. Like, you have
Like you've
kids?
known me for
Yeah,
how
I
long?
have.
15 years? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple kids. Uh,
Yeah.
I can
But you,
understand going, "Oh, two sisters?" Yes, I do have two sisters. I can understand
yeah,
people not knowing I had two sisters, but not knowing I had two kids, that one was kind of a, strange thing to
yeah,
me. And um, it's but there is that
yeah.
need a little bit for a barrier, if you will. And
And
it's doesn't have to
it
be
doesn't
full
have to
of it.
be
Yeah.
painful. And it doesn't have to be painful, right?
Right.
That
Yeah.
barrier doesn't have to be painful. Like you said, and I can't remember if it was I, I can't remember if it was one of the area meetings or if it was when we were in Vegas in 2018. Were you in Vegas in 2018 for the okay, I can't remember where it
I didn't get
was.
out.
Okay, I can't remember where it was, but I remember I met you in person, and I can't remember where it was. I don't know, an area meeting or something. And
Must
me
have
and you went
been.
through the pleasantries, and then you're like, Kimani, having some problems with Learning Center. Like it was and then it was business mode. I'm like, yep, I know. And I went to explaining what we're working on, right? But that had nothing to do with our human interaction.
Right.
We can be humans, people. We
Yeah.
can be humans. We can ask how you're doing. We can ask how the family is. We can say good morning.
Yes.
We can say have a good afternoon. And then, by the way, now that we got as you hear, the pleasantries out of the way,
Yeah.
I got a couple things I want to run past you. And you got to be able to be a professional. And you know what, Nikki, I got to say this. I'm getting on my soapbox a little bit. The word professional gets thrown around a
Mm-hmm.
lot. A
Yeah.
true professional, a true professional knows how to pivot, can pivot from being task driven, can pivot from being a human being, can pivot from being result driven, data analysis, however personality you have, you can pivot. You're not just one person, one way all the time.
Right.
You're a professional. If you think of anything, golf, basketball, football, there are people that play the sport that are great athletes. But a professional is someone who can do everything you can do, but they're good in front of the press. They're good off the field. You have layers to your abilities that make you
Yes.
flexible, right?
Right.
So when someone says I'm professional, why? Because you got a CEO next to your title next to your name? That doesn't mean you're professional. That just means
Yeah.
that you have a position. True professionalism happens at in people's eyes lower responsible levels, where
Yeah.
someone who is an executive assistant who's running all of your books and travel and being talking to different people and negotiating airfare, and they're a professional at what they do. So don't
Right.
demean someone just because they don't have your position. Doesn't mean they're not a professional. I'm sorry,
Right.
I gotta. You took me when I
Right.
heard the word professional, a little trigger. I apologize.
Need a little alarm over Kimani's
Yeah,
head.
yeah. That
Yeah.
word is thrown around. That word is thrown around
You,
far too
you
much.
know, it's funny because I had a conversation this morning with a gentleman about professionalism and how, yeah, and in our instance, yes, like you said, being able to pivot. And I have talked to people about being able to clearly communicate with people.
Yeah,
And, in what we did, and some people have it, a lot of people have the many different personality types that you and I dealt with, and some people didn't. But, in the area, at the area level, supporting a national franchise, I
yeah,
had 130 stores that I supported. That's like, and with all the multiple center owners, it was probably 90 different personality types that could
yeah.
come at me any given day. And
Exactly. Yeah,
when we had our quarterly meetings and we were all in person, that was 90 different personality types right here in front of me, at any given moment across the day. And being able to pivot from, okay, this person really likes to chat and tell stories and have a personal, touchy feely conversation. And this person just wants the high points and move real fast. And,
yeah,
and that's another layer of pivoting and professionalism. And another layer is, um, when people get very competitive, we'll call
mm,
them competitive. We'll say
okay.
competitive and be
We'll
nice,
say
right?
competitive. Yes.
When people get very competitive, being able to maintain that, being able to maintain a professional working collaborative relationship,
Yeah,
even when this is somebody that you just cannot stand. And I saw that in the network too, right? This person
yeah,
can't stand this person and they sit on opposite sides of the rooms and they never talk. And in some instances, that's okay to never talk to that person again. But sometimes those people are directly on your team, or
yeah,
heaven forbid it be your boss. I was lucky it was never my boss. Um, or even, like you and me, right? I worked in the field, you worked at corporate.
yeah,
If there was a lot of animosity between us, we could never have had a functional,
yeah,
collaborative relationship. So professionalism also is the ability to control our own emotions and our own egos for the sake of the greater good, if you will. Um,
yeah.
and
And
and and that allows us to pivot, like you're saying.
yeah, yeah. And I think too, it was always nice, and I think that you felt the same way. Anytime we got on the phone or we spoke, it was not a depressing conversation. It was like, I was like, Nikki, like Kimani. It was great. And people would walk into my office who had been with the corporate office and they'll be like, is that Nikki Duncan? I'm like, yeah. Why is she so happy? Because Nikki's a happy person. You just don't listen. You just don't listen to Nikki Duncan. So you can shut my door, right? But there used to be days where I would walk in with something and say, me and Nikki talked about like Nikki Duncan. I'm like, yeah, Nikki Duncan. They're like, she just told me off. I said, well, maybe you deserved it. I don't know. I don't have that. I don't have that experience with Nikki. So so it doesn't bother me.
I was
Um,
always nice in my telling off.
you were. I think one time I remember you were trying to get someone in class. Was it? It
I was
was
always
something.
trying to get somebody in a class, Kimani.
Yeah, but it was somewhere, it was something we dropped the ball. And you emailed me and you were like, hey, this is what I mean. And you one thing I love about you, Nick, you were always passionate about your franchisees. If they didn't know that, they were foolish. You
I think
went
they
to
knew that.
you yeah, you fought for them, right? And I remember you sent the email and I saw it. And I don't know if you remember Mark Sandin.
I
Um,
love Mark. Mark was
yes,
great.
yes. So I'm gonna tell you why Mark was so great to you. You sent an email Mark looks into the inbox and he goes, "Who's this Nikki Duncan? Because she's very upset." I said, "She has a right to be because we dropped the ball." I said, "Do me a favor. I want you to call." I said, "Don't email Nikki. I want you to get on the phone with Nikki on video call and fix the issue." And he did. And he started doing it more and more. I said, "Why don't we do that with all the areas? Just jump on and check with him, right?" So he loves you now. Mark loves you. Me and Mark have no problem with Nikki Duncan. Everybody else was, but she's so mean. I said, "Nikki's not mean. She's just trying to get things done." If if you and you can cut all this out if you want to, Nikki, but
No, it's
I'm just
fine.
keeping it 100, being authentic.
Keep it real. You're not saying
You
anything
were
bad about.
yeah, you were always professional. You were just you needed results.
Mhm.
That's all. You were just
Yeah.
looking for results. You were always professional. You weren't mean, in my opinion. You were just looking for results. It's now up to me and my team to give you the
Mhm.
result. And if
Right.
I can't, explain to you why I can't. But it better not be no bull crap
Right.
because
Well,
you're really
and it
good
did
at
I'm gonna call it, yeah. It did take me a little bit to learn that there's a way about me. My mother used to tell me all the time when I was growing up, "Don't you take that tone with me." I'm like, "What tone?" There's no tone. And she's like, "That tone."
Yeah.
But we used to have that little interaction, my
Yeah.
mom and me. But it took me a little bit to realize, and my former boss, she was really good at saying, that email is a little terse, you
Yeah.
know? And because I am, you said something earlier about people saying I don't have time for the fluffy stuff.
Mhm.
Sometimes when we're sending emails, fluffy stuff
Gotta get
it
Nope.
does not translate
Nope.
well, even though I'm
Nope.
sitting there and I'm going to take 45 minutes to send this. I'm going to take 45 minutes to write this 3-sentence email to Kimani to let him know that this is broken and I need help. And I've now spent 45 minutes and I still sound like a raging monster. And it's just like, I can't make it sound nice. That's when I would pick up the phone and be like, "Listen, I need help."
Yeah.
But sometimes that email just has to be sent
It
because you
does.
need a
It does.
record of things, right? And it's like,
Yep.
and I'd sit here and be like, "Oh, this one hurts a little, like it stings a little, but I'm sorry," and
Yeah.
I would hit,
Hit enter.
and I
Yeah.
click and I would hit send. And I had one franchisee that if I ever hit that send button before I called him, oh, I could guarantee I was going to have an exploded eardrum when my phone rang next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just got to the point, like you were saying, you talked to Mark about just call Nikki. And
Yeah.
I would call this franchisee and say, "Hey, listen, I have really been working on this and I'm really sorry to say that I cannot get you the answer that you want. I'm going to
Yeah.
send you an email with all the details. I just wanted you to know that the email sounds really rude, but that's
Yeah.
not my tone."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's just
Yeah.
100% fact based. And sometimes
Correct.
you can't get emotion in there, right? Because it's business and we can't always get emotion in there. It doesn't always belong. And so finding that balance, that level of when to use the emotion and when to use the professional and the fact based. And some people read those fact based emails and were like, "Okay." And they
Yeah.
didn't
So
care. Some people
yeah,
would
for
read
me,
it like, "You're so mean to me." And I'm like, I really wasn't being
yeah.
mean. Um,
But
I would
here's
even
the
start
thing.
the email. Yeah, I
But it
would
got
even
the
start.
job. It got the job done though, right?
It did.
And like for example, I'll tell you something that you may not have known. I cherished our relationship so much that if I got one of your straightforward emails, actually any of your emails, but your straightforward emails, I would never send that to anyone else. Like my boss would come and say, um, Did Nikki Duncan reach out to you? I'm like, yeah. What did she say? I would paraphrase. Well, she's just a little frustrated. We're working on it though. I would never send it to anyone else. I would never share it with anyone else because, as far as I was concerned, that was Nikki asking Kimani for help. Period.
Right.
And it didn't hurt my feelings. I didn't get my feelings hurt. I'm not
Right.
that kind of guy. You're just trying to get to the point. But you know what? I'm going to say this too, that people forget. Emails, text, all the things in this world is based on communication is based on one word. And that word gets mixed up so many times. That one word um that people forget is your motive.
Mhm.
If I know you have good intentions and I know that you are a good person, you can never offend me
Right.
because I know that it comes from a good place.
Right.
If you're nasty and gnarly and you're a bad person, I'm gonna take your email as such.
Right.
Your intentions, your motives are huge. So me and you had spent time outside of these heated engagements because of franchisees having problems. Not us. Me and you were good, but
Right.
our worlds were having problems. Corporate was
Yeah.
having problems. The franchisees were having problems. And here's Nikki and Kimani trying to figure out how to make it work. So because me and you had spent time I remember in my offices, me and you talking sometimes. We were talking nothing about business, just checking on
Yep.
you, checking on things. And then when you would email me, I knew your motives. So it never offended me. I never had a problem
Right.
with it.
Right.
But you got to get
Because
to
it's
know
about
someone.
people.
Yeah, it's about people. That's what it gets
Yeah.
back to, right?
It's about
Um,
people. Absolutely.
yeah, because there's another person, I will not say her name. Um, she was probably my biggest challenge. And she fought for the franchisees. Was she rude? Yes. Was she nasty? Yes. Was she unreasonable? Yes. But why was
Mhm.
she doing all that? Because she cared about her franchisees. It wasn't personal. She didn't
Right.
hate me. She hated the situation. You know what I
Right.
mean? And people don't
Yeah.
know how to divide that.
It's tricky and it takes a lot of practice and it takes a huge amount of emotional intelligence and a willingness to continue growing and learning
Yeah.
that emotional intelligence. And there were people there were people in the business that, well, we all have them, right? In every business, every single one of us, we have those people we have the better relationships with, and we have those that we don't. And I remember there was a gentleman that worked in our office, and there was somebody at home office, and man, they rubbed each other the wrong way. And
Yeah.
he never had a good thing to say about her. And he was mean and just, and I'm like, dude, don't approach her like that.
Yeah.
He's like, well, she needs to do her job. I said, she's trying to do her job.
Yeah.
She's got this rigid set of rules that she is required to adhere to. And I'm sorry, but even me, where there's always people, right? There's still a lot of black and white and
Yeah.
something, there are some things that there's just no gray. It's either black or
No.
it's white. It either is or it
Yeah.
isn't. There are those places where there is no middle ground. And she worked in one of those spaces where there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
It's either compliant or it's not compliant.
Correct.
You know what? You either did the training or you didn't do the training. You're
Yeah.
either compliant or you're not compliant. There's no middle ground here. And
Yeah.
they really rubbed each other the wrong way. And it took me a long time to get through to him. I said, stop going at her aggressively. You can't do that. I said, just go to her and say, hey, listen, I need your help. I have this huge problem and I cannot see a solution on my own.
Yeah.
Open the door to collaborate and have a conversation with her. Stop acting like you have to be the smartest person in the room and that everybody has to bend to your will.
Yeah.
And he started doing that. And I mean, he would then, then he was telling me I was a fool. And he's like, that's so stupid. I shouldn't have to do that. They should just do their job. Well, I understand. I agree. You know what?
Yeah.
The job should just be easy, but we work in a complicated business and it's not always easy.
Like
10
not
million
all,
moving, there's 10 million moving parts, right? And,
not even a little
and
bit.
just 10 million moving parts, and the people in
Yeah.
corporate, and they have their one function that they become experts in, but out here in the field, we had to become experts in all the functions and know how they all
Yeah.
wove together and, whatever. And I said, I get what you're saying. This function and this function are beating each other in the
Yeah.
head, and they're not meshing together. I said, so here's how we work that on our end to make that work, because you're not going to
Yeah.
reprogram corporate. So we have to rework it here. And but having the ability to do that and trying to get somebody who was bull in the china shop just bulldoze his way through everything, um to redo how he approached different people. And after a couple of months of trying a different approach, he would put an email together and send it to me and say, is this safe for her? Is this gonna trigger her? And I'd read it and I'd be like, well, I would do this, this is how I would word that. And so I would
Mhm.
help him reword emails to soften them and whatever.
Yeah.
And he, before it was over, before he left us, they had a great work. He was like, I really like her. I don't know why I had such a problem with her before. I'm like, well, it's a little thing called ego. Uh,
Yeah. The serenity of finding a connection with people
yeah,
is so peaceful. But
yeah,
and then you start asking yourself, man, I really ruined the first, year, 2 years of me knowing this person. We could have been really having a good time instead of all these interactions. But anytime you have any relationship, you're gonna have some bumps. Um, I tell people when I'm training on emotional intelligence, I noticed you said that in the work environment, you spend almost equal or sometimes more time you spend with your own family with these
hmm
people.
yeah,
So you've been working with them for 15 years and you guys are still at each other's neck. I mean, you never took the step to get to know them. There's no way you've been with someone that long. If you were married to someone and you never communicate, I don't care how long you stay married, you're not gonna like each other. You're never gonna connect. There's a moment where you have to connect in order for things to get better, you know? And it requires some vulnerability and to drop your ego just a little bit, just a tad.
yeah,
And people don't want to
yep.
drop their ego. Yeah.
Taking that ego out is hard. And I know there are just some people that put our backs up
Yeah.
and that just rub us the wrong way. And you're just like, "Argh," and you just really want to dig in and win the fight. But I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and she says, well, I just feel like I can't win. What are you trying to win? What are you trying to win? Because there's not really a competition
Yeah.
going on. I mean, you're the only one competing. So
Yeah.
why? Why are you being competitive in this situation? And nothing's been lost. So there's nothing to try to win back. So, and it was just I think it was fear, and I think it was fear
Yeah.
on their side of things. Um, and whatever, and stuff that they've got going on, but it was just getting in the way. And well, I'm just trying to win. Okay, but win what?
What? Yeah.
Like,
When what?
I don't know what
When
we're
what?
fighting for.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. I'm not arguing about anything. Um, so and that's the other thing is what are we trying to win and why? What do we
Yeah.
stand to gain? What do we stand to gain by not putting people first and by not approaching things from
And then
with empathy
I
and with
have
a
a
clear motive?
I have a funny story, and then I don't know how much time we have, but uh this is a real funny story. There's someone right now to this day that we get along just fine. There was one time at one point in our lives we did not. This gentleman rubs me the wrong way to this day. I can't stand him, but I love him. And what happened was we had a moment where we were going at it on something, and I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna get down to the real problem. He said, what's that? I said, I just don't like you. I just don't like you. And he said, I don't like you either. And you know what we did? We started laughing. We just started laughing like, I don't like you, you don't like me. Okay, we got out the way. So if you don't like
We
me, I
don't
don't
like each
like you.
other.
Yeah, we don't like each other. Okay, good. What don't you like about me? Because you're a jerk. Well, thank you. Well, at least I know, right? But after that point, our working relationship was beautiful because we would look at each other and go, I don't like you, I don't like you. And it became comfortable, right? When you
Right.
just get those ugly things out the way, but the more you let them stay in a corner of the room and they start smelling up the room and they start, you forget about it. One day you look over there and go, "Oh, that's so nasty. I just want to burn that corner of the room. I don't want to deal with it." You
Right.
burn those relationships because you never took care of it early before it became infested, right? Relationships, just get it out the way. If you don't like somebody,
Yep.
stop trying to hide. And I'm going to use a strong word. Don't be a coward. Just come out and just say, you know what? Oh, I don't like the
I
way
don't
you write
like you.
emails. I don't like you. And it's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, we're not trying to get no violence. I'm not going to go after you or nothing, but at least we're on the same page.
Right.
And it's funny when you're on the same page, things get better for some reason. I don't know
Oh
why,
my
but it
gosh.
does.
Amazing things happen when you get on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a guy that used to say, he was like, I don't like your emails. I don't read your emails. And I'm like, well, I spend about an hour and a half on every email I send to you. I mean, it felt like that, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't read them. And I could have gotten mad at him and been all, "Rah," and I said
Yeah.
to him, I said, well, I said, that's really frustrating because I spend a lot of time on my emails, but why don't you read them?
Yeah.
What are you not, you're missing a lot of information by not reading them. Why don't you read my emails?
Yeah.
Well, because I can't read real well because I'm dyslexic. Oh, that makes a huge difference, right? And so then I started putting videos in my emails, when it was something that was real dense and compact and
Yeah.
whatever. I started putting videos in my emails so that because I thought if he's not reading my emails, he can't be the only person not reading the emails, right? There have to be more. But man, as soon as I started putting videos in there and giving him content in a way that he could digest it, I started hearing from all these other people about how much they liked the
Mhm.
videos because not
Yeah.
that they were dyslexic or whatever, but because it was just easier for them to digest in the grand scheme of their busy day. And they
Yeah.
weren't sitting there trying to read it and be like, okay, it says to do this. And if I go over here, like how do I connect that? But
Yeah.
just giving them the content in another way, it created those connections and we had better relationships after. So
And I
it's
think,
even like you said, get it out of the way and be direct about it. It opens the door to why. Why
yeah.
don't you
And
why
and
don't you like
and to your point, Nikki, you did something that a lot of people don't do though. You adapted.
right,
You modified your message. You didn't just keep doing it your way. You know what I mean?
right. Yep.
And you got to be willing to do things differently. And I think that's why, you hear the generation of baby boomers and all. I think that's why some generations have a hard time pivoting because they're used to just doing things their way,
Yep.
my way or the highway. And you usually end up being on your own highway when you do that. No one,
You're on the highway all by yourself, going
yeah, no
nowhere
one
land.
wants to be on your highway. So
Yeah.
you can have
I
it.
yeah. I have two non-neurotypical people in my house. I raised a daughter who's not neurotypical, and my husband is dyslexic and not neurotypical. It's like I get it, right? I don't get what it is to be that, but I get that they hear things and receive things differently than
Yeah,
other people. And you know, it takes that ability to adapt. I mean, if I go in and try to talk to my husband and he's got his phone in front of his face, I have learned that if I continue speaking to him while he's got his phone in front of his face, 100% he's not going to hear a word I say.
yeah,
It just is, right? And that's not just my
yes,
husband, that's most of us. If we are
yes,
right here, then we're not right here. And so
yep,
I have learned to just stand there and wait. And I mean, just the other day, he walked in the room and he asked me a question. I had 3 words out of my mouth. His phone pinged and he opened it and I just stopped talking. And he finished his phone and he sat it down. He goes, sorry.
yeah,
And then I started talking again. His phone pinged and he picked it up again. I just stopped talking. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to focus. I'm like, I know, I get it, because in his case,
yep.
we're mixing ADHD and dyslexic,
Yeah,
together.
it's putting it all together, one melting
And
pot.
I'm
Yeah,
like, I understand, like I get it, but I have learned, you know what? Not everybody's me. And honestly, people probably don't really want to be me and they don't want to be
yeah,
inside this brain because it's kind of scary sometimes.
yeah.
Um,
Mine is.
like, like,
I
who,
said
you know
mine
what?
is for
Just be
sure.
you. Just
Yeah,
be you.
yeah,
You be you. You do you. I'll be me. I'll do me. And we'll figure out how the two can meet somehow.
yeah,
Um, and and too often, like you said, people just do not want to adapt. And
yeah,
it's my way or the highway. And even if that means I'm traveling the highway alone,
yeah. All by yourself.
all by
Hey,
myself,
hey, but I'm listening to my own music and I'm having a good time. But
right?
just don't expect
Right.
anybody to be with you. Yeah. So,
Driver. I
but
don't know if you ever watched Supernatural. Driver picks the music, passenger
yeah,
shuts his vehicle.
everybody just you do you, I do me. But
Yeah,
that's what I told one person I worked with some time back. It was like, well, I'm the kind of person my way or the highway. And I was like, so you must drive alone because you're on your own highway, bro. Um,
yeah. It's the
and
lonely land.
yeah, and in the business that we're in, we can't be on our own highways. We have other people, the other drivers. We got people that drive in our car for us. We're in
Right?
the passenger seat and they're driving right now. You got to trust them. You got to trust that they know what they're doing. You got to give them that space to not only do well, but also make mistakes and not
Yeah,
overreact when those mistakes are made because in your head, I would have never made that mistake. Well, that's you, but they
right.
did. So how are you going to help them grow past that point? And that's really
Right.
the heart of learning and development is helping people become better versions of themselves. And that's why I do what I do.
Why you do what you do. I was listening to a friend today and she was saying just the same thing. She works in learning and development. And she was like, at the end of the day, no matter where I land, I'm passionate. I'm passionate about learning and development because I love helping people become stronger on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, hopefully that's why we all do what we do, right? Because we
Yeah.
want to help people get stronger on the other end, no matter what it is. Any leadership role, get stronger on the other end and help others do the same thing. But so I haven't really been keeping track of time, Kimani. We've just been chatting.
We've been doing pretty good.
But I don't
Um,
want to tie you up all day. So if companies are interested in upscaling their training and development efforts, how can they best connect with you? And do you have any final pieces of advice that you would want to share to leaders about leadership or training and development or professionalism in general?
Well, my website I have at the very end you can set an appointment with my company or anyone if you have any training issues or concerns or just looking to see what options that we have. Of course, I can also be contacted via email, which is kfranks at Novalux, that's NoVALUX consulting.com. And of course, we can help you there as well. But the primary source, though, is our website. We're a little lacking on the social media. I'm working on that now. But even if I'm connected on Instagram, or not Instagram, but LinkedIn, as you were able to connect with me on. And I'm working on the other platforms as we speak. But my final thing that I would like to share with anyone and everyone who listens to this podcast, and first, I want to thank you too for letting me be part of this journey. I appreciate you, Nikki, for reaching out. And I know it took us a little bit to get together, but we did. Um, my final message is um, entrust uh, not only your vulnerabilities, but also entrust even some of your ideas, concerns with the people you work with. Uh, Be cautious, of course. Don't just the first time you meet someone give them everything, but over time, just give them little pieces of yourself and be okay with that. Don't hold on to this self-preservating approach to life where I'm always after my own things, and the people that are out there aren't really human beings. They're just bots that do what I want them to do so I can get where I want to go. If you live your life that way, you're going to end up being exactly what I just said by yourself, right? Even if you become wildly successful and you got tons of people working for you, and then let's say something bad happens, you pass away. If they're going, I am so happy that guy is gone. Did you really accomplish anything?
No, I wouldn't think
Right?
that's what you want people saying.
Yeah. You want people to be endeared to you. You want people to want to work for you. And here's my last message to leaders. If you do things that way, I promise you, without a shadow of a doubt, and if you want to hold me to it, let's put money on the line. You will always do better on the bottom line. Always. Because happy people work hard. Unhappy people will leave. And you lose if you lose good people. So keep people happy. You'll make money. They'll make money. And they'll stick around even if you can't pay them what they want. They'll stick around because they're happy.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. That is
Yeah.
awesome. Kimani, thank you so much for doing this with me.
You're welcome,
And
Nikki. And anytime, anything I can do to support you. And if this is a video you end up showing to somebody in the near future, I want them to know Nikki is awesome. Don't
aw,
be foolish. Give her
I'm
the
gonna clip
time she
that part out
needs.
just by itself.
Don't be foolish. Give her the time she needs. She's fantastic. She's great with organization, and she's a beautiful personality you will not miss. So I
Thank
do want to
you.
make sure I say that just in case someone wants to pull it up.
Thank you. That's awesome, Kimani. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.